Old powers waken, shadows stir. An age of wonder and terror will soon be upon us. An age for gods and heroes.
The glass candles are burning, and you're listening to the Obsidian Nights podcast.
Hello, my sweet summer children. I'm back with the juice to get you through the long night. And today on the Obsidian Nights podcast, where we go through A Song of Ice and Fire chapter by chapter, I am joined by Lady Lola. Lola, would you like to tell the people who you are and where they can find you?
Hi, my name is Lady Lola. You can find me on Twitter at the Lady Lola1, although I don't really post a lot, but that's where you can find me.
Yeah, so when I followed you on Twitter, I seen a post that you had retweeted of mine from August, and I was like, oh yeah, I still feel like that. Where I was like, I wish Daenerys murdered them all. I was like, yep, I still feel that.
I'm not a big poster, but yep, I saw that earlier, and I was like,
yes.
Yep.
So today we are going to be doing Sansa 5 of A Game of Thrones. And this is a very interesting chapter because this is all about the goings on after Ned Stark has been imprisoned and Joffrey is king. So this is Joffrey's first ever court as king, and it's going to be interesting. It's an interesting chapter, a lot of politics going on, and let's get right into it. So the chapter starts off as this. The walls of the throne room had been stripped bare, the hunting tapestries that King Robert loved taken down and stacked into the corner in an untidy heap. Sir Mandon Moore went to take his place under the throne beside the two of his fellow of the King's Guard. Sansa hovered by the door, for once unguarded. The queen had given her freedom of the castle as a reward for being good. Yet even so, she was escorted everywhere she went. Honor guards for my daughter-to-be, the queen called them, but they did not make Sansa feel honored. Freedom of the castle meant that she could go wherever she chose within the Red Keep, as long as she promised not to go beyond the walls, a promise Sansa had been more than willing to give. Yep. She couldn't have gone beyond the walls anyway. The gates were watched day and night by Janos Slynt's gold cloaks, and Lannister house guards were always about as well. Besides, even if she could leave the castle, where would she go? It was enough that she could walk in the yard, pick flowers in Myrcella's garden, and visit the Sept to pray for her father. Sometimes she prayed in the gods would as well, since the Starks kept the old gods. So the first thing that I noticed, in this chapter, was that Robert is barely dead, and they're stripping his hunting tapestries off the wall. And that's how you can tell that Joffrey and Robert didn't have a close relationship, because had it been my dad that died, I would want his hunting tapestries to stay on the wall. They're my dad's.
Yeah, I have to agree. And then on another note with the hunting tapestries, I know this is a little later on, but Littlefinger really wants them, and this is the first time that they're kind of mentioned that they're being taken down. So I'm just really waiting to see what's on them, what's on the hunting tapestries. They pique my attention.
Yeah,
considering he wants them so bad. But I agree. I think it's interesting that they were saying, before his body was cold, you plotted you plotted to take over the throne, and his body's barely even cold, and you're removing his whole memory.
Right. Even his belongings, fuck this.
Yes.
Let's burn this. Or let's get rid of this. Take this down. And Littlefinger probably wants them because they are expensive. They're worth a lot of money, but they're worth even more money because they belong to King Robert.
Yeah.
So that's probably why he wants them. I know in the show, one of the tapestries that they had on the wall was Robert and Rhaegar at the Trident. So, I don't know if that was one amongst them. I don't know where they got that. That was in season 1. They could have got that from George, that the depiction of Robert and Rhaegar is on a tapestry in the throne room, because it was there when they when in the council chamber, which in the books I believe is in the throne room.
They're in the throne room. But I have a crazy conspiracy that there's going to be something in them that can, I don't know, kind of expose Cersei's secrets. I don't know what,
Ooh.
but I have this gut feeling that there's something more than just like money or monetary value to them. I don't know. I feel like there's something there. I don't know what it is, but I don't know, it's just like a gut feeling.
I mean, there's always that possibility that's probably, I mean, if that was the case, that could be why they wanted them to come down.
Yeah.
Like if they depicted something like cryptic.
Yeah. And then on that note, with just something that always I think is kind of funny, or, and it's talked about here more in this chapter, how, they see there's a lot of Lannister stuff. There's a lot of Lannister men, Lannister colors. And I just always think it's kind of funny that Cersei and, well, Joffrey's supposed to be Cersei and Robert's son. But when he's gone, she's so quick to try to get rid of his reminder. But there's so many rumors about Joffrey being illegitimate. I feel like, wouldn't you want to keep some of Robert's reminders around so that people know or kind of remember, like maybe have some more Stormlanders around, have some more Robert belonging stuff around? Like, I think it's kind of lack of foresight in her part to get rid of so much Stormland stuff, so much Robert memory stuff.
Yeah, it's definitely lack of foresight, but it's also like before Robert's even dead, I remember Jon Snow, like it's a Jon Snow chapter, and they're like watching Joffrey in the yard at Winterfell, and John's like the audacity that they would put the Lannister lion right next to the crown stag, because I think like the sigil that Joffrey has is the crown stag and the Lannister lion. Yep. Like that they're equal, and like Jon just can't believe the audacity of it.
Yes. And they're crazy.
Yeah. I mean, they're really above themselves. But then like we later find out that Robert has borrowed so much money from Tywin that well, Tywin does kind of own the kingdom.
Yep, he can pretty much do whatever he wants. Like, come on, bro. But yeah, I just feel like it's so crazy. Like, bye, peace, like, bye. Like, she's just basically piecing out from him,
Yeah, like it's like one of those wives that like plot on their like those Black Widows. It's like that kind of situation.
If this was a true crime episode, it would be so obvious you murdered your husband. Like, yes. Come on, try to hide it a little bit, like a little better.
We would have figured it out in the first 48.
Yeah, yes, exactly.
So, also in that paragraph, like Cersei is so fucking slick. Like she's so slick to say, like, yes, Sansa, I'm gonna give you an honor guard, as if she needs an honor guard. Like, no, they're spies for you.
Yes.
And like Sansa's right. Like it's an empty gift. Like you're giving her a gift of freedom of the castle, but it's empty because like where can she go? What can she do? Like it's not really a gift. It's a gift that's not really a gift.
I agree. I like that she kind of like sees through it, she's like, well, I don't feel very honored. Right. She kind of sees that, like she's starting to see that like manipulative side of Cersei. And even in the text, freedom of the castle is in quotation. So it's almost like she knows like freedom of what, I can't do anything. Like, thanks, I guess. Yeah.
She's not dumb. She's not dumb. Like she's done some shit that I don't like, but she's wisening up. But this is like the last chapter of Sweet Sansa. Like she's like being thrown into the lion's den, quite literally, and she doesn't have like the skills that her siblings have, because she's like been the most sheltered Stark child, I believe. Like Bran is very wise, and Arya is like very wild. And I feel like because Sansa was like the firstborn daughter, like so much was expected of her. So she was sheltered more. Like Rob was the firstborn son, so he was trained for battle and for lordship, and to grow into this Eddard Stark figure. And Sansa was kind of trained to grow into the perfect lady for a lord. And I feel like that is working against her. a lot in King's Landing because she's figuring shit out, but she's still very naive, especially when it comes to Joffrey.
Yeah, I agree. I think in the last Sansa chapter, her world kind of came crashing down and the fairy tale just broke. Although I do think all the Stark children are naive to an extent. I do have to agree that she is the most naive, and I feel like I agree she's done things that are horrible, but I especially in this chapter I start to feel kind of bad for a little while because it's just she believed so much and it just wasn't true. So I just feel a little bad. This is where she's starting to wake up.
She has that Ned Stark syndrome, like where she just has like this faith in people that she shouldn't have faith in.
Exactly.
It's pretty sad. So the chapter continues and it says, this was the first court session of Joffrey's reign. So Sansa looked about nervously. A line of Lannister house guards stood beneath the western windows, a line of gold-cloaked city watchmen beneath the east. Of small folk and commoners, she saw no sign. But under the gallery of cluster of lords, great and small, milled restlessly. There were no more than 20, where 100 had been accustomed to wait upon King Robert. Sansa slipped in among them, murmuring greetings as she worked her way toward the front. She recognized the black-skinned Jalabar Excel, gloomy Sir Arryn Santagar, the Red Wine twins, Horror and Slobber. Only none of them seemed to recognize her, or if they did, they sighed away as if she had the gray plague. So, like, the people aren't really fucking with Sansa because she's a traitor's daughter.
Exactly.
Yeah, she's the traitor's daughter.
She is. And it one thing that catches my attention, just like to backtrack a little bit, is the number of people that were with King Robert versus Joffrey, or now the Lannister court. I wonder if it's because they didn't want more people there because they thought they would hurt Joffrey or Cersei, or because no one wanted to come see them. I feel like it's because no one wanted to come see them.
I think it's a bit of both. I think, like, for sure, some people didn't want to come because they know that it's like a war that's about to break out. And then you have, like, of course, the River Lords are at war right now with Tywin. So, like, all the Western houses. I don't know if the Tywin call the King's Banners. I'm not sure. Like, did they call like the people from Maidenpool and the Crown Lands? I'm not sure if they called those people. But then you have like a lot of people had already left King's Landing. Like Beric and Thoros' party had left. Renly left and took a lot of people with him. The Tyrells had left. So Loras was gone. So a lot of the people that Sansa would have noticed were gone.
Yeah.
And then I also think that the commoners weren't there for sure because they didn't want them there. Like Cersei didn't want them there.
Yeah, that's one thing I did think is like one, maybe afraid of them, but she always definitely thinks that she's like is better than them, like why do I want to listen to these people's complaints?
Yeah.
For sure. But yeah, she doesn't. It's sad. It's like, I don't know, when you're in high school and you do something wrong and then all your friends stop talking to you, no one looks at you. That's how I feel like Sansa is right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're like, oh my God, there she is. Nobody talks to her.
Just like she went into the cafeteria and everyone's like, you can't sit with us.
Exactly.
So
that's how I feel here.
Yeah, definitely. And she's looking for like friendly faces. Like she's looking for any kind of friend and she can't find them. And she's basically like saying, I shouldn't be afraid, she told herself. I have nothing to be afraid of. It will all come out well. Joff loves me, and the queen does too. She said so. And I'm just like, bitch, really? You think she loves you? You think they love you after, like, what they've done to your dad?
Yes.
Like,
same. I'm like, come on. Like, oh, honey. You know what I mean? That's like, oh, no.
Yes.
Like, wake up. I don't know. But yeah, I feel so bad for her.
No,
I feel really bad for her in this chapter.
I do too. Like, I don't like Sansa. I don't like I've always, like, people know I don't like Sansa, but I don't like the show Sansa.
Mm-hmm.
I am impartial to book Sansa. Like, I don't like a Game of Thrones Sansa for sure. I really like when she becomes Elaine Stone.
Same. I love her.
So it's like she does grow. Like
Yes.
she does grow, she does learn, but she's just so naive. And like a lot of it isn't her fault. A lot of it is like there's some shit that just to me is unforgivable. Like her lying on Arya in the
Mhm.
Riverlands. Like if she had told the truth, like Joffrey wasn't gonna like you anyway. And you saw who he was. So if you had just told the truth, you could have saved a lot of people. Like the butcher's boy. Like he might not have had to get butchered.
Lady.
And lady. Yeah.
Mhm.
So like that's unforgivable. And then like, trying to make your dad bow down to Cersei because he wants to send you home because you're in love with Joffrey, but you're not
Yeah.
really in love with Joffrey. Like Joffrey's a sociopath.
Yeah. That is one of my biggest like issues with her. I do like Sansa, but I'm not like a crazy Sansa fan.
Yeah.
I do think she made mistakes. I do think that like Eddard's imprisonment with her, running to the queen. I feel like that is partial. That is part of it is her fault, but I also feel like a lot of that onus belongs to Eddard. You know what I mean? Like you're a grown man. You should know. You should know better. So I feel like it's more than one person's fault, definitely. But I feel like she definitely had a big hand in it. I feel like if you wouldn't have said anything, you probably wouldn't be here right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Yep.
For sure. So Joffrey comes out, and the herald is like, "All hail his grace, Joffrey of houses Baratheon and Lannister, the first of his name, king of the Andals, the Ronar, and the First Men, and lord of the Seven Kingdoms. All hail his lady mother, Cersei of House Lannister, queen regent, light of the West, and the protector of the realm." So first of all, it's funny that like they're like Joffrey of the houses Baratheon and Lannister instead of just saying Joffrey of the house Baratheon.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's like the normal. Like when they introduce Rob, it's Rob of House Stark. It's not Rob of House Tully and House Stark. So
Yes.
it's so weird.
It
And
is so weird.
like that would be like saying it's Stannis Baratheon of House Baratheon, and I forget where is his mother Florent. I forget exactly what his mother is, but yeah, it's weird.
It is really weird. And I actually want to talk a little bit about some foreshadowing, if it's okay, if I can
Sure.
backtrack a little bit. There's this part in this chapter that really, really interests me. And it goes, vainly she searched for friendly faces. Not one of them would meet her eyes. It was as if she had become a ghost, dead before her time. I feel like, I don't like to say this, and people might hate me, but I feel like that might be a little bit of foreshadowing that Sansa might die
I
throughout this
totally
book
think
series.
I totally think she's gonna die.
I think she's gonna die too. And that reminds me a lot of Beautiful, which is the quote that Eddard used for Lyanna, which is beautiful and willful and dead before her time. So I feel like it just has such a ring. Like I feel like I don't know. I feel like that's a little bit of foreshadowing and she might die.
Yeah, to get like not to get like too far and talk about the show and everything, but when they made her queen in the north in the show, like to me that made no sense because if Bran is gonna be king, he's not gonna be king in King's Landing. If anything, he's gonna be king in Winterfell, where there's a heart tree, and like the new ruling seat will become Winterfell, or the new ruling seat will become um Harrenhal or something like that. Like
Yes.
he's gonna want to be around Weirwoods. Why would he want to like let's say that everything that happened in the show is canon. Why would Bran, who's confined to a wheelchair, want to be in a city that's ruined?
Mm-hmm.
Like the King's Landing is the ruling seat because the that is the castle that the dragons built. So if the dragons are all gone and the Targaryens are all gone and the Red Keep is ruined and burned by dragon fire and the throne is burned by dragon fire, why would Bran want to be king there? That makes no sense. And then he's a Weirwood king.
Yes, I
So
have to agree. Like when I thought, okay, let's say that it is canon and he's gonna be king. Why not rule from the God's Eye, bro? Like that's where you get your power. I 100% agree. I was like, are they gonna? One of my questions at the end of the show was like, are they gonna bring Weirwoods
mhm.
down to like would they grow again? I was so confused.
I've noticed that when the Starks lose their direwolves, the Starks die.
Yeah.
They die.
Yes.
And like Rob and Greywind kind of had the same death. Greywind's head was cut off, Rob's head was cut off, even though they were swapped. Like in the show, as soon as Summer dies, Bran becomes like this weird person that's like, I'm not even Bran anymore. When Shaggy Dog dies, Rickon dies. Like, and this is the show we're talking about. But I've always had this theory that in the books that Sansa, where she starts off as this person that, goes against her family and kind of joins the Lannisters, like her last deed will actually be her fighting for her family, and not only just fighting for her family, but fighting for the sister that she didn't get along with the most, the sibling that she didn't get along with the most, which was Arya. And Sansa will actually die in the place of Arya, like Lady died in the place of Nymeria. So that's been my theory for a long time. And Game of Thrones season 8 making Sansa Queen of the North was like, bro, no.
Yeah, I do think she's gonna die, and I do feel like once their wolves are dead, they're dead. I don't know how she's gonna die. I really like that because I feel like I feel like Sansa is on the path to like really fuck up, like to really mess up her, like if she ever gets back, because I don't know what's gonna happen. I'm not that good at predicting, but I feel like she's gonna really do something to hurt her family, and this is I don't know. And I feel like maybe that will be one of her like way she gets redemption. I don't know if that makes sense. I just feel like the way she's going right now, even though I like her in the later books, I feel like she's turning a little sketch, a little, I don't know. Cold, yeah, and I feel like it could lead her to do something worse than what she's done against her family. And I feel like maybe if she were to die in a place of one of her family members, it would be more of a redemption arc. I don't know.
I don't necessarily. I think by the time she's Elaine, like her family, she's gonna probably never betray them again. But Littlefinger, she's definitely gonna kill him.
Oh, I cannot wait for that. I hope so. I hope she does it herself. Like
I think she is. Like the Ghost of High Heart's whole I saw the same maiden. She was talking about Joffrey's wedding. She's like, I saw the same maiden in a castle made of snow slaying a giant. And I'm like, okay, that's Littlefinger. Because the Vale looks like a snowy castle. And Littlefinger is from Bravos, like his family comes from Bravos. The Titan of Bravos is a giant. Littlefinger's like the Baelish sigil, like his parent sigil, I believe, is the Titan of Bravos.
Yeah, I can't wait for her to kill him. That is one thing I do like. I like that in the show. I wish she would have done it herself, but I was happy with what I got there.
I just like she is gonna have to do something. I mean, I feel like she needs to make up for what she's done. I don't feel like she necessarily has to die. I will say, like, small spoiler. And it's not really a spoiler because this outline has changed so drastically. But in the original outline for A Song of Ice and Fire, Sansa was not one of the 5 survivors. The 5 survivors were Tyrion, Jon, Bran, Daenerys, and Arya. So Sansa wasn't supposed to survive in the beginning. Could he have changed that? For sure, because he changed so much of it. But it's interesting that in the show, Dany dies, but Sansa lives.
Yeah.
So I'm like, that's a hell of a swap if that's what he was going for.
Yeah. No matter what, I love Dany, and I hope she never dies, and I hope she gets her beautiful ending.
Same.
It's too happy, so it probably won't happen, but I love her so much. So.
I mean, I don't see why, like, even if she's not queen, why can't she just go away like Jon went away?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't have to be a happy ending. It can be just her going away on Drogon, like on some Nettles sheep stealer type of shit.
Oh, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, I would love that.
Yeah. Yes, just go away. Like, be happy. I don't know, live. But yeah.
Yeah. So, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead. I think I'm done here. Well,
Okay.
not here, but with this part.
Yeah. Okay. So Sansa's like saying, like who's all in the room. So she's like, Sir Barristan Selmy is there, Sir Aerys Oakhart is there, Sir Boris Blunt is there, and there's like, she's like, so the 6 Kingsguard were now in the hall, all the white swords save Jaime Lannister alone. Her prince, no, her king now, took the steps of the Iron Throne 2 at a time, while his mother was seated with the council. Joff wore plush black velvet slashed with crimson and shimmering cloth of gold cape with a high collar, and his head a golden crown crusted with rubies and black diamonds. When Joffrey turned to look out over the hall, his eye caught Sansa's. He smiled, seated himself, and spoke. It is a king's duty to punish the disloyal and reward those who are true. Grand Maester Pycelle, I commend you to read my decrees. And then Pycelle comes up and like, I can't stand Maester Pycelle.
Oh my god, I cannot stand him either. Show or book. He's the freaking word. He's such a
creep.
Yes, oh no.
Yes, he is such a creep. So Joffrey is basically like, judging the traitors and all of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So the names he reads made Sansa hold her breath. Lord Stannis Baratheon, his lady wife, his daughter. Lord Renly Baratheon, both Lord Royces and their sons. Sir Loras Tyrell, Lord Mace Tyrell, his brothers, uncles, sons. The Red Priest Thoros Amir, Lord Beric Dondarrion, Lady Lysa Arryn and her son, the little Lord Robert, Lord Hoster Tully, his brother Sir Brendan, his son Sir Edmure, Lord Jason Mallister, Lord Bryce Caron of the Marches, Lord Tytos Blackwood, Lord Walder Frey, and his heir Sir Stevrin, Lord Carl Vance, Lord Jonas Bracken, Lady Sheila Went, Doran Martell, Prince of Dorne, and all his sons. So many, she thought as Pycelle read on and on, it would take a whole flock of ravens to send out these commands. And at the end, near the last, came the names Sansa had been dreading. Lady Catelyn Stark, Robb Stark, Brandon Stark, Rickon Stark, Arya Stark. Sansa stifled a gasp. Arya. They wanted Arya to present herself and swear an oath. It must mean her sister had fled on the galley. She must be safe at Winterfell by now. So
that makes me so sad. I'm sorry that she must be safe at Winterfell. Like, I feel like all the Stark children, when they think of each other, they're like, oh, they must be, hopefully they're safe. Hopefully they're there. And she thinks of her sister. And she's like, oh, she's at Winterfell. She's safe there. It's like, oh.
It's funny because it's saying the absence grows the heart fonder. Mm-hmm. So when Sansa, in the previous Sansa chapter, like Sansa, when she's in the room pent up, like she never thinks about Arya. And then at the end, she thinks about Arya. She's like, oh my God, I never forgot to ask about Arya. And then like the same thing with like right here, like she gasps thinking like, oh my God, Arya's alive. Like it's kind of a relief to her, but it's so naive to think that she's made it back to Winterfell already.
Yes, like, it is really naive. It is so sad. I think it is sad. But I do agree. And I feel like on the other side of that coin, like I feel like Arya is kind of the same.
Yeah.
Every now and then she'll think of like her family, or I think there's a point, and I may be misquoting and misremembering, but she's like saying a prayer and she's like, I guess I'll say one for Sansa too. So
yeah, and she talks about like, I once knew a girl that loved lemon cakes. Like she thinks about Sansa. Like Sansa is a comforting thought to her, even though like they had like this tumultuous childhood. But she is like, like they love each other. They're siblings, they're sisters, and sometimes like sisters don't have the best relationship when they're young like this. And especially when they're so different.
Yes, they're so different, and they're in that perfect age to hate each other.
Yeah.
Like it's that like perfect, like not hate each other, but just be so frustrated with each other. So I feel like lots of people comment about their bickering or how Sansa calls her names. It's like they're sisters. I don't know. I have a brother, and girl, let me tell you, sometimes I'm just like, wow, I was kind of mean to you growing up, So.
I mean, I have a sister. We've had our moments, but for the most part, like our age difference is so much. Like I'm 10 years older than her. Mm-hmm. So like she was like my baby.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
So we never had like the mean sister relationship. But so what Joffrey is doing here is he's reading. So what we were talking about earlier about all the lords being missing. So he's noticed like who's the fuck isn't in King's Landing, which is Renly and Loras Tyrell. So he's make the names that he's reading off that he wants to come swear fealty to him are the people that have already taken up against him.
Yep.
Except for Lysa. Like Lysa's just impartial. But basically he's saying, so Stannis and Renly are Robert's brothers. And then Lord Royce, both Lord Royces and their sons, they're the lords in the Vale. So they would be, whatever Lysa, they'd be doing whatever Lysa is doing. Loras Tyrell left with Renly. So Mace Tyrell and his brothers and uncles all fall into that category with Loras and Renly. And then the Red Priest Thoros of Myr and Lord Beric Dondarrion went off hunting the mountain. So then you also have Hoster Tully, which is Catelyn Stark's dad, and her uncle Brendan and Edmure. Jason Mallister is also a River Lord, bannerman of Hoster Tully. That Jason Mallister is actually already like gonna fight Tywin. So like he's already like he's one of the last houses standing in the Riverlands right now. I think Tywin's taken every Riverland house except for the Mallisters, and I think it's one more. It might be. I think that's it. Lord Tito's Blackwood. I think he's already dead. Like he fell in battle. I'm not sure, but I think House Blackwood fell already. Walder Frey. Walder Frey is bannerman to Hoster Tully.
Yep, and he's like, come on,
Yeah, like all these houses.
He should always swear.
All these houses like Bracken and House Went. I think like Harrenhal's already fallen.
Yeah.
So like all these houses are Riverland houses, and then Doran Martell, Prince of Dorne. Like we already know, like Dorne doesn't fuck with the Lannisters. So these are all the people that Joffrey feels like would contest his reign. That's the people he's calling to swear fealty to him. And like Catelyn, Robb, Brandon, Rickon, Arya, like they're not coming to King's Landing to swear fealty to you. You have their father in a dungeon.
Yeah. I think like with saying Doran Martell, Prince of Dorne, and all his sons, it just it's like women, and it's just so disrespectful. You know what I mean? Like where women in Dorne are princesses of Dorne, I feel like it's also such a slight to everyone else. And also, I forget Mace Tyrell's son, the oldest. Why isn't he here? Why isn't
Garland?
Yes,
Garland.
I think so. Why is he here?
Because he's the heir, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I was like, dang, okay, sorry.
And I mean, because Prince Doran's heir is Aerion.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's kind of like,
yes.
Yeah, Joffrey don't know what he's doing.
No, they don't know what he's doing.
He's just making a show. So it says, Mr. Pycelle clears his throat. In place of the traitor Eddard Stark, it is the wish of his grace that Tywin Lannister, Lord of Castle Rock and Warden of the West, take up the office of Hand of the King, to speak with his voice, lead his armies against his enemies, and carry out his royal will. So the king has decreed. The small council consents. And it says, in the place of the traitor Stannis Baratheon, it is the wish of his grace that his lady mother, the Queen Regent, Cersei Lannister, who has ever been his staunchest support, be seated upon his small council, that she may help him rule wisely and with justice. So the king has decreed, the small council consents. So like to Cersei being placed on the council, like there's a little bit of murmuring going on in the crowd because Cersei's a woman.
Yeah, that's not very commonplace. There have been women, like in the past, of A Song of Ice and Fire that work within the small council, but it's very rare for her to just be seated there. It's so presumptuous, and I feel like arrogant. Like everybody knows you sat yourself there. It's just it goes back to that the audacity, very similar to the lion being next to the crown stag on the banner. I feel like it's all kind of the same thing.
It's the Lannisters are just above themselves. Like they're just above themselves. And I mean, I can't even lie. Like I probably would be too. Like if I stole the whole fucking kingdom, like this, if I stole the whole 7 kingdoms with a bastard son, and I'd been fucking my brother and like getting away with it for all this time,
yeah,
I'd probably be like above myself too. Like I'm not even gonna lie. Like if I knew I could get away with that, then what can't I get away with at this point? And that's one of her downfalls.
Yes, I was about to say, like, she thinks she's so like high and mighty. It's like you don't see the truth. Like Cersei always claims to be so smart, to be like equal, to be just as good, but it's like you're not, because you're so above yourself, you're so within your own head that you can't see that surrounding yourself with Lannister men and getting rid of the memory of Robb Stark so quickly, that being so arrogant to see yourself on the small council, like those are all things that will bring you down. Yeah. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but they will lead to your downfall.
Oh, for sure. That ego is inflated, baby.
Yes, it really is. It's just like Cersei, because I also love Cersei. She's one of my favorite characters. She's full of drama, and I love it.
I love her too. Like I love her in the books, and I love Lena Headey. Like I think she plays the fuck out of Cersei.
She did so freaking good, so good.
Mm-hmm. So Joffrey keeps like handing shit out, and Jamis Slynt comes in, and he gets Harrenhal, which is an ancient seat. Like he gets all the lands surrounding it, the incomes. Like, and then it goes from him to his sons and his grandsons. And not only that, like he gets a seat on the small council. Mm-hmm. And it says, Sansa glimpsed emotion from the corner of her eye as Jamis Slynt made his entrance. This time the muttering was louder and angrier. Proud lords whose houses went back thousands of years made way reluctantly for the balding, frog-faced commoner as he marched past. Golden scales had been sewn onto the black velvet of his doublet and rang together softly with each step. His cloak was checked black and gold satin. 2 ugly boys, who must have been his son, went before him, struggling with the weight of a heavy metal shield as tall as they were. For his sigil, he had taken a bloody spear, gold on a night black field. The sight of it raised goose prickles up and down Sansa's arms. So,
the way Lord Janos is described and the way his
frog
son is described,
ugly little boys.
Always gets to me, like, since it's like, damn, these people are ugly. Like, okay,
but it's
always so good.
This is another instance where Cersei has like risen above herself. Like she doesn't realize, like when you make these political decisions, then you have to you run the risk of pissing people off, and you're not in a position where you can piss people off. So when you have these lords whose bloodlines go back thousands of years, and then you have this common man that committed like treason for you, and you sit him on the king's council and you give him Harrenhal, like you give him, like Tywin can't even believe it when he fucking hears about it.
No, there's a lot of things that happen in this chapter that Tywin's like, are you like, what are you freaking kidding me? Like, and it's one of those, you're right, it's those situations like where it's so short-sighted. Like that's 100% so short-sighted. You can't even think like ahead to know what people are going to feel. I don't get it. It's surprising like how long they stay in power. Like, you know what I mean? How long she stays in power. And I feel like a lot of it's just sheer, like she attributes it to skill. I feel like it's just sheer luck and fear that people have.
The fear of Tywin.
Yeah.
That's why when Tywin falls, so does House Lannister.
Yes.
Like House Lannister, after Tywin's death, it's like downhill. Like you can feel the momentum that they had in the beginning going down, down, down as soon as Tywin dies.
Yep.
So the last thing, it says, lastly, in these times of treason and turmoil, with our beloved Robert so lately dead, it is the view of the council that the life and safety of King Joffrey is of paramount importance. He looked to the queen, Cersei, and stood. Sir Barristan Selmy, stand forth. Sir Barristan had been standing at the foot of the Iron Throne as still as any statue, But now he went to one knee and bowed his head. Your grace, I am yours to command. Rise, Sir Barristan, Cersei Lannister said. You may remove your helm, my lady. Standing, the old knight took off his high white helm, though he did not seem to understand why. You have served the realm long and faithfully, good sir, and every man and woman in the 7 kingdoms owes you thanks. Yet now I feel your service is at an end. It is the wish of the king and the council that you lay down your heavy burden. My burden? I fear I do not. The new made Lord, Janis Slint, spoke up with his voice heavy and blunt. Her grace is trying to tell you that you are relieved as Lord Commander of the Kingsguard. The tall, white-haired knight seemed to shrink as he stood there, scarcely breathing. Your grace, he said at last, the Kingsguard is a sworn brotherhood. Our vows are taken for life. Only death may relieve the Lord Commander of his sacred trust. Whose death, Sir Barristan? The queen's voice was soft and silk, but her words carried the whole length of the hall. Yours or your king's? You let my father die, Joffrey said, accusingly from atop the Iron Throne. You're too old to protect anybody. First of all,
Janis Slint needs to sit the fuck down. I'm sorry. Like, you don't even fucking go here, okay? Like, I get so mad. That line just like, shut up. Like, shut up. No one's freaking talking to you.
Right, like you've been a lord for 1
5
second.
minutes.
And like none of the people in the hall are fucking pleased that you're Lord. And what are you gonna do? You're gonna fucking talk shit to Sir Barristan Selmy, who is one of the like last Kingsguard that was reigning when Aerys was reigning. Like that was Kingsguard when Aerys was reigning. Like he served 3 kings. So
yeah,
calm the fuck down.
Yeah, a hero, a legend, and you're just gonna talk to him that way? Like, no.
Yeah. So, like, first of all, and that's another short-sighted thing that Cersei did. Like, Sir Barristan is a legend.
Yes.
Sir Barristan standing beside Joffrey strengthens Joffrey's claim.
Yes.
To the throne.
Even
Sir Barristan,
if he's like quote unquote too old, like if they say like tilted, like him there alone having your back provides more legitimacy to you.
Yes.
You getting rid of him, one, shows that you have no respect for tradition, history, or respect for the heroes of Westeros. It's just like, bye.
Yeah.
Or vows.
And it makes me so sad. Like this, your grace, he said, I was chosen for the white sword in my 23rd year. It was all I had ever dreamed from the moment I first took sword in hand. I gave up all claim to my ancestral keep. The girl I was to wed married my cousin in my place. I had no need of land or sons. My life would be lived for the realm. Sir Gerald Hightower himself heard my vows to ward the king with all my strength. To give my blood for his, I fought beside the White Bull and Prince Luwin of Dorne, beside Sir Arthur Dayne, the Sword of the Morning. Before I served your father, I helped shield King Aerys and his father, Jaehaerys, before him. 3 kings, and all of them dead, Littlefinger pointed out. Your time is done, Cersei Lannister announced. Joffrey requires men around him who are young and strong. The council has determined that Sir Jaime Lannister will take your place as the Lord Commander of Sworn Brothers of the White Swords. The Kingslayer, Sir Barristan said, his voice hard with contempt. The false knight who profaned his blade with the blood of the king he had sworn to defend. Have a care for your words, sir, the queen warned. You are speaking of our beloved brother, your king's own blood. And like then Varys like steps in to like kind of, but like seriously
this chapter should be called Nepotism 1 because that's all it is. Like,
how do you take a guy like we were saying, the legitimacy of Joffrey's reign would have been more legit had he had Sir Barristan by his side. Like I feel like because Dany has Sir Barristan, like I feel like Sir Barristan's going to be with Dany when they come back to Westeros. If he doesn't die and he's with Dany, that automatically gives her legitimately. He's a legend. He's a legend. He served her grandfather. He served her father. He served King Robert.
Yeah, and he's still freaking got it. Like, this is a little bit ahead, but during this time, like, once he bounces, like, they try to stop him, and he still gets away. Like,
right.
It's not a skill. Like, I don't... You know, they claim it that he's old and that he's no longer able to protect the king, but clearly he's capable. It's just it's just showing that you want your family, your Lannisters closer to you, and it's just like it's so dumb. It's so dumb. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah. It's really stupid, and it's really like they're really showing their cards. It's so dumb.
Maybe.
And so Cersei's like, well, like Lord Tywin has agreed to give you some land north of Lannisport. And he's like, a hall to die in and men to bury me. I thank you, my lords, but I spit upon your pity. And like he starts like taking off his armor, dropping his helmet. He said, I am a knight. He opened the silver fastening of his breastplate and let it fall as well. And I shall die a knight. And Littlefinger's like, a naked knight. It will see. I can't stand
Me
Littlefinger.
neither. I wish he would have cut him like cheese. Like he threatens to cut them like cheese. Like, please.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes.
God, shut up. Like, I don't get it. Yeah, I feel this chapter makes me really mad. It also makes me really sad for Barristan. Like, it's heartbreaking. I feel bad, and he's right. Like, you're giving me this land. First of all, it's funny because Tywin was so mad that they dismissed him. He did not give him any land. Like, he wouldn't have approved it. Like, if that invoice came across his desk, he would have been like denied. So I think it's funny that they say Tywin Lannister agreed to this. It's like, no, he didn't. You're just doing it on your own. And he's right. I mean, what does he want a keep for? He doesn't have a family. He doesn't have anyone. He's given his whole life to this service. And it's like, what am I going to do now?
And they just spit on it.
Yeah.
They just spit on it. It's sad.
Yeah, it's not just sad like for that, but it's like a defiling. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's gross, like the way that they treat him. And and they do it in front of so many people, and like all the people are laughing. And Sansa even says, like, surely that must have hurt the most, Sansa thought. Yep. Her heart went out to the gallant old man as he stood shamed and red-faced, too angry to speak. Finally, he drew his sword. But if Sansa feels like that, and Sansa only knows, like the stories and songs about Sir Barristan, imagine how like those lords are looking at that. Yeah. Like you take a legend like Sir Barristan and you replace him with the Kingslayer.
Yep.
Like that's what you're doing?
With the Kingslayer.
Yep. So he draws his sword, and like Sir Boros and Sir Meryn like come towards him, and he's like, have no fear, sirs. Your king is safe, no thanks to you. Even now, I could cut through the five of you as easy as a dagger cuts cheese. If you would serve under the Kingslayer, not one of you is fit to wear the white. He flung his sword at the foot of the Iron Throne. Here, boy, melt it down and add it to the others, if you like. Excuse me. Here, boy, melt it down and add it to the others, if you like. It will do you more good than the swords in the hands of these five. Perhaps Lord Stannis will chance to sit on it when he takes your throne. Like, Barristan was in there.
Barristan called a bitch out. I love it.
Like, Barristan was like, okay, bitch. This how y'all want to play it? This how you want to play it? And then, like, he, like, walks out that bitch. Yeah, like, and the lords move out his way. Like, they're not standing in his way.
Nope, no hesitation. They're like, oh, please walk this way. No, yeah, it's crazy. I feel, God, it's just so, like the first time I read these books, I was just kind of like, okay, this is cool. I had already watched the show and I didn't necessarily understand the implications, but the more you read these chapters, it's like mistake. Yeah. It's like, you're a fucking babe.
Yeah. And Joffrey's like, he called me a boy.
Yeah.
He called me a boy, and he talks about my uncle. I want him seized, and like nobody like moves. And he's like, I want him seized now. And Lord Janis like gets up, like, my gold cloaks will see to it. Mm-hmm. Like, my gold cloaks will do it.
Yep, sure.
And they never catch him because he, like you said, he still got it. Yeah. So Joffrey, so he says, we find ourselves in need of a new sword for our king's guard. Joffrey smiled. Tell them, mother. The king and the council have determined that no man in the seven kingdoms is more fit to guard and protect his grace than his horned shield, Sandor Clegane. And Joffrey's like, how do you like that, dog? Yo, the relationship between Sandor Clegane and Joffrey is so funny.
I think so too. It's like I aspire to not give any F's as much as Sandor does. Like,
He just doesn't.
He just doesn't care. It's so hilarious, and Joffrey cares so much, and the wrong way, but he's like so invested, obviously, and I don't know. I like it.
Yeah. And like the Kingsguard are not happy about the Hound being in the Kingsguard. Sir Boris is kind of like the Sworn Brotherhood of the Kingsguard have always been knights. And the Hound's like, until now.
Yeah.
Until now. Like, I don't have shit to forsake or forswear. So like I'll be on your Kingsguard in name only, but I'm not a knight.
Yeah, it just like, again, it just that this chapter, like these, I don't know, this part just really shows again their lack of respect for tradition, for history, for culture, which I think are super important when you're trying to establish yourself as a new ruler. Like you want, you know what I mean? Like you want that stuff because it legitimizes you as a king. And I feel like that's just my opinion, but it's just showing how you don't care about the sacred traditions.
It's definitely true though. It's like I don't think they care either.
Yeah.
Like all of them. Like, of course they don't. They've forsaken and broke every tradition that there is.
Yep.
That they're like, they don't care.
But the people care, you know, like whether that be the small folk or even like the other lords. Like I feel like a lot of them really do care about tradition.
Oh yeah.
Which is something that Cersei even later herself, like in the shows, relies on, you know, calling Daenerys an outsider,
a foreigner.
Thank you. So it's like you're relying on these traditions and this like national pride to keep you safe when you want it. So it's
when it's convenient.
When it's convenient.
But I mean, we know for a fact that like traditions, especially in the North, are taken seriously. Like when it comes to guest right, like the whole Grand Northern Conspiracy thing isn't necessarily because those houses that are sworn to the Boltons now love the Starks. Like some of them for sure, yeah, they love the Starks, but a lot of it is that Walder Frey broke guest right. Mm-hmm. So fuck the Freys and fuck the Boltons for aiding in that shit.
All of them.
Yeah. And it goes back to the traditions of the North. And I feel like it's the same everywhere in Westeros. Like no one wants Joffrey to be their king. No one wants Cersei. No one wants House Lannister to rule them. So Sansa is like about to have her moment. So she says, when the King's Herald moved forward, Sansa realized the moment was almost at hand. She smoothed down the cloth of her skirt nervously. She was dressed in mourning as a sign of respect for the dead king, but she had taken special care to make herself beautiful. Her gown was an ivory silk that the queen had given her, the one Arya had ruined, but she had them dye it black, and you couldn't see the stain at all. She had fretted over her jewelry for hours, finally deciding upon the elegant simplicity of a plain silver chain. The herald's voice boomed out. If any man in this hall has other matters to set before his grace, let him speak now or go forth and hold his silence. Sansa quailed. Now, she told herself, I must do it now. Gods give me courage. She took one step, then another. Lords and knights stepped aside silently to let her pass, and she felt the weight of their eyes on her. I must be as strong as my lady mother. Your Grace, she called out in a soft, tremulous voice. The height of the Iron Throne gave Joffrey a better vantage point than anyone else in the hall. He was the first to see her. Come forward, my lady, he called out, smiling. His smile emboldened her, made her feel beautiful and strong. He does love me, he does. Sansa lifted her head and walked toward him, not too slow and not too fast. She must not let them see how nervous she was. The Lady Sansa of House Stark, the herald cried. She stopped under the throne at the spot where Sir Barristan's white cloak lay puddled on the floor beside his helm and breastplate. Do you have some business for the king and council, Sansa? The queen asked from the council table. So all of this is like a show for the people. Mm-hmm. This is all like just for show.
It is for show.
She comes to ask for mercy for her father, Lord Eddard Stark, who was handed the king. And she says it like she had practiced the words 100 times. So she knew what like she had to say. Like she's basically been coached to say this and say it in front of people.
Yep.
And so she says it and she's like, and Cersei's like, Sansa, you disappoint me. What did I tell you about traitor's blood? And then like Pycelle's like, you know, your father has committed like these terrible crimes. And Varys is like, poor sad thing. She's only a babe, my lord. She does not know what she asks.
Yep.
And Sansa like only looks at Joffrey and she's like, he must listen to me. Like he must, she thought. And go
I
ahead.
think it's so sad, like right here, it says I do. She knelt on the cloak, as to not spoil her gown. I feel like it's such like I don't know, like I don't know if foreshadowing is the right word because it happens so quickly, like, but it just, it's she's kneeling on this cloak of this like broken promise, broken tradition, a soiled cloak.
Mm-hmm.
And I just feel like it really goes to show like that this promise that Joffrey gives her is going to be just as broken and just as soiled.
That
Like
is such a good point.
Thank you. I feel like it's just such good symbolism for that lie.
Oh, it totally is. Like you're kneeling on Sir Barristan's cloak, who they like just fucking kicked out the fucking kingdom.
Yep.
On some hoe shit. Like
yep.
Just in front of you. Like you just seen them. Like you just seen them do some crazy shit to him. So like his vow meant nothing. Like it meant nothing to them.
And this vow will mean nothing to him.
Yeah, that is a good point. So she basically says, like Joffrey's like, I want to hear her speak. I want to hear her speak. And I don't know if Joffrey is if Joffrey is in on this. Like I feel Cersei has coached her and the council has coached her, but I'm not sure that Joffrey is in on it.
I don't think Joffrey's in on much of anything, to be honest. Like when they're like, oh, this is the law, and Joffrey passed. Like I feel like he's not involved at all. Like he's just a figurehead. He just shows up when he wants attention, kind of like King Robert. Almost, how he doesn't go to the small council meetings, how he just shows up when he wants to do attorney or something really bad happened. Like he's not really involved in anything. That's the vibe I get from Joffrey.
Yeah, I get the same. Yeah. I get the same. Like he's more involved than Tommen was when Tommen was king, but but not still. That's like being more involved than Tommen.
Yeah,
it doesn't really mean because Tommen wasn't involved at all. They just like basically had him stamp and shit.
Yep.
But Sansa's basically like, like I know he must be punished, but I just ask you for mercy. Like he has to regret what he did. He was Robert's friend. He loved him. You all know he loved him. He never wanted to be hanged until the king asked him. They must have lied to him, like Lord Renly or Lord Stannis or somebody. Like they must have lied otherwise. And then Joffrey like comes forward and he's like, he said I wasn't the king. Why did he say that? And Sansa's like, his leg was broken. It hurt ever so much. He was taking milk of the poppy, and milk of the poppy fills your heads with clouds. Otherwise, he would have never said it. And like, of course, Varys is like playing good cop, and Pycelle is playing bad cop, and Cersei's like just looking thoughtfully.
I feel like Pycelle, like he is so like treason is treason. It's like you're a traitor though too. You know what I mean? Like I feel like he projects so I feel like he projects so much of his like hate for traitor and traitor's blood because he is himself a traitor and full of traitor's blood. And I feel like he knows it, so he tries to like put it on everybody else.
The ultimate traitor.
The ultimate traitor. Like he was always a Lannister fanboy, and this just really shows it.
He definitely betrayed King Robert.
Yep.
And Jon Arryn.
Yep. And he's betrayed everybody for Tywin, for the Lannisters.
Yeah. Tyrion sought him out and destroyed him.
Yeah.
When Tyrion sought him out. Like I see right through you, bitch.
Yeah, and I don't remember if this is in the books or just in the show or both, because sometimes they do cloud up in my head. But the part where Tyrion, or when Tywin's like, and Cersei's complaining to him about Maester Pycelle, and he's like, well, maybe he should kind of be there. Like, you know what I mean? He's like, well, why is he in there? So he kind of knows too.
There was a scene, it's a deleted scene from Game of Thrones where Tywin's like fishing in King's Landing and talking to Pycelle. And Tywin's like, cut this act. Like you're not you do this fake limp and this fake hunched over shit. Like, it's all an act. And he's like, everything I've done has been for House Lannister. And that's so true. But like, I was so glad that Varys offed him.
Yeah, I really wish that would have stayed more in the show, because that just really shows. And I really like that quote. He's like, the tallest rose often gets plucked. It's like,
yes.
Oh, you're such a coward, bro. Like, on top of being a traitor and a freaking pervert and a weirdo creep, you're also a coward.
Like, yes, he is. So Cersei's like, well, if he confesses his crime, we would know he had repented his folly. Joffrey pushed himself to his feet. Please, Sansa thought, please be the king. I know you are good and kind and noble, please. Like, bitch. And I was like, do you have any sense? So he was like, do you have any more to say? He asked her. She said, only that as you love me, you do me this kindness, my prince, Sansa said. King Joffrey looked her up and down. Your sweet words have moved me, he said gallantly, nodding as if to say all would be well. I shall do as you ask. But first, your father has to confess. He has to confess and say that I'm the king, or there will be no mercy for him. He will, Sansa said, her heart soaring. I know he will. Woo.
I feel bad for her here, because I feel like she has such a rush of hope, like such a roller coaster, you know, at the end of this chapter. She's like, maybe there is hope after all.
Yeah, this is
any hope. And
this is the last chapter she has hope in.
Yep.
This is the last chapter she has hope in, because this is the last, like, after this, she sees him for what he is. When he cuts his father's head off, her father's head off, she sees him exactly for what she is. She's seen it already, but she's been in denial. Even though, like, she has that dream where he's like, he kills the mythical beast, which none of the heroes ever kill the mythical beast in the story. She says that herself. So she's like in denial, and she's like all in fight or flight mode, just trying to survive and trying to shield herself from the bitter truth and like the awfulness that he is. And like, she's in an impossible position, right? Like, her fam, like, she has no family there. Like, she's in a pretty fucked up position. So it is normal to try to see light at the end of that tunnel, because it's very dark where she's at.
Yes, I agree. And I feel like that's why she has this little bit of hope. And it is rough for her. I do, like I said, I do feel really bad for her here. She is all alone. She just wants her dad to come back, and I don't know, it's rough. And she's trying to survive, and I really do think she is brave here. And I mean, what more can you ask from a 12-year-old girl, from like a girl, like a little girl, to do her best? Like, this is it. And I feel like it's pretty brave of her.
And to her credit, like, Cersei and the small council mean to let Lord Eddard go to the wall. Like, they want him to confess, take back what he said, and go to the wall. Like, they don't want to kill him, because they know killing him is going to start a war. Like, it's already a war going on. They don't want to make it bigger. So Cersei, like Varys says, like, to Ned, like, a tamed wolf is better than a dead wolf to her. So she, like, to Sansa's credit, the plan is for Ned Stark to confess and go to the wall. That's why they tell Yoren to wait.
Yep.
So he can take Ned. Joffrey kills him on his own.
Yep. He goes crazy, and just not crazy, but he goes off book, off script, and just kills him. Which, they were right. It did cause a war and a lot of trouble for them.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah. Like, if he had never, a lot wouldn't have happened had he let Ned Stark take the black and go to the wall. Like,
yes.
And not kill him. A lot of shit that happened wouldn't have happened. Like, Robb would have went back to Winterfell. Tywin wouldn't have had to deal with the Northern Army. Jaime would have never been captured, and Tywin would have only had to focus on Renly and Stannis. But instead, Robb goes off the war. Robb sends Theon to negotiate with Balon. So not only do they have Balon going to war, they have Robb going to war, Renly going to war, Stannis going to war. So yeah.
Yeah, this was just a little breaking point, like the start of it. This really was.
He made it messy. He made it messy. And I feel like if Tyrion was there, none of that shit would have happened. Tyrion wouldn't have even like they did it on Baelor's sept, like they did it on the Sept of Baelor because it was about mercy. They weren't gonna and like the fucking the fucking Septon was like, you bitches defiled Baelor's sept with this death, with this execution on Baelor's sept. Yeah. So it's pretty fucked up.
Yeah, it's really fucked up. So it's crazy. This chapter just shows so many mistakes they made, and it's like, should have just like, I guess hindsight's 2020.
But it's funny. It's funny. Like this whole chapter is foreshadowing. The first day of Joffrey's reign is mistake after mistake after mistake after mistake after mistake.
Yes.
The first day. So if that's the first day, imagine what the rest of it's going to be like.
Yes. Just
mistake. And eventually reaping what he sowed in this whole chapter.
Yes.
Everything he sowed here, he will reap later.
Yes, he does.
But that's Sansa. That's Sansa 5. Did you have anything you wanted to add to it?
No, I think I'm good.
Sorry, I took a sip.
You're good.
Water. All right. Well, that's Sansa 5. Would you like to tell the people where they can find you one more time? I'll also put your links below.
Yeah. You can find me on Twitter at that Lady Lola 1. I think. Yeah, the Lady Lola 1. Sorry, I don't go on Twitter too much. And that's pretty much the only place. I'm not a big poster.
Yeah, I feel you. I feel you on that. Get a lot of peace of mind by not having social media.
Yeah, I also just feel like people's lives are so interesting, and I'm just like, I just gotta work. I don't have anything cool to post. So,
well, I enjoyed doing this chapter with you. Thank you guys for tuning in this week, and I will see you next week. Bye, guys.